And a very warm welcome back to Westminster. Now, the British National Party had a breakthrough last year. They had not one, but two members elected to the European Parliament, and this year they're fielding nearly 3 times as many candidates as they did at the last general election. Well, the BNP leader, Nick Griffin, is with us now. Welcome to you.
Really?
We also are still joined by Rod Little and Christina Rodoni. Mr Griffin, we know who you want to keep out of the country. Who would you allow to come and settle in Britain?
Well, England and Wales is the most overcrowded country in Europe, apart from Malta. So, really, quite simply, I think what the British people want is the door shut, and that's what we give them.
To everybody?
To everybody, with genuine, real exceptions. An example I've given, we believe that Britain desperately needs a serious homegrown nuclear power plant programme, otherwise the lights are going to start going out. If for that we need to import a Japanese physicist and his family, obviously we'd do so. But any significant immigration we would stop, because the country's full. We've got 8 million Brits of working age not working, some of them because they can't, some of them because they're damn lazy. They should be made to work, and we need to stop relying on the rest of the world.
What about Australian backpackers who kind of work in our bars in London and keep them stocked with beer?
If people are coming in absolutely temporarily and so on, that's fair enough. But overall, we've got hundreds of thousands of young Londoners who are unemployed for various reasons. Why can't they serve the beer?
And you've also got a policy of voluntary repatriation, I think.
Yeah, well, that exists under the present government. We just spend a lot more money on it.
Right, so what is it, £50,000 per person?
We're suggesting £50,000 per person. That would come out of the foreign aid budget, so that would be 180,000 people, if they wanted to, could go back to their lands of ethnic origin. That would relieve so much pressure on our health service, on our schools, on transport systems. It would be a great thing for us, and also a great thing for those countries, because at present foreign aid, most of it goes into the bank accounts of dictators. This would be a real foreign aid, people with skills and money going back to help those countries.
So 180,000 would be the target?
That would be, well, that's what we could afford out of the present foreign aid budget, yeah.
I don't quite get this temporary stuff. If Australian backpackers come here and they want to work in a bar for a bit, they can do it. Can Somalian backpackers come and do the same thing?
Really, the point is, it's backpackers, it's holidaymakers, it's tourists.
But a lot of these people say that they're temporary. A lot of people who come here say they're here for temporary work. A lot of the Polish people who came here were for temporary work.
Yep.
Are they allowed to do that?
No, they shouldn't be. The only reason they're allowed to do that is because we're in the European Union. Well, we do believe that we've got closer ties in all sorts of ways, culturally and so on, and just in terms of who they are with the Australians, the New Zealanders and the Canadians and so on.
So you would make a very straightforward racist division upon who was allowed in?
It's not a racist division. It's a division based on all sorts of things, including
Well, we've got very close ties with the Commonwealth, with India, Pakistan.
What about Kenyans?
Yep. But, well, taking Pakistan as an example...
Why don't we do Kenyans? Because
I was born in Kenya. I was born in Nairobi.
So why Kenyans?
You're not a Kenyan.
Not by his criteria.
In Kenya, I was offered at 18. I was offered, to have a Kenyan passport.
The doors need to be shut. If people are genuinely here as backpackers for 3 months, then if they want to do a bit of work while they're going around,
from wherever they're from, Kenya, Somalia,
really from wherever,
Mars,
from wherever they're from. But it's got to be people who are here on holiday and doing a bit. Having people come over here under the guise of being here on holiday.
And how do you distinguish?
Made that up?
Yeah, it does sound a little made up. I mean, so what is it, for 3 months or 6 months? 3 months, 1 week, or 2 months, 3 weeks?
I think, we should ask the British people. I think 3 months would be sensible.
Well, haven't you worked it out, Nick? Come on.
Anyone who's staying here longer than a long holiday is...
Well, what's a long holiday?
Is a burden on Britain, on our taxation system, because many of these people, so the Poles who are here, they work here for a year. As long as they leave this country within a year, they go back and they get all their tax back.
But
and British workers cannot compete.
Christina.
It's so unfair.
Mr Griffin, can I just say one thing? I looked into the Eastern European immigration, and every East European, if you do a kind of average, they put in to us in terms of taxes, in terms of job creation, in terms of 20% more than they take out in terms of benefits. With most white English people, it's the reverse. They take out 20% more than they put in. So it's not an economic reason. It's not an economic reason that you're standing on.
The Poles pay in taxes the same as everybody else. As long as they leave within a year, they get all the tax back. They're allowed to claim family credit for their children.
We're getting more from them.
Over in Warsaw, what on earth is going on?
We're getting more
they
from
work
East
hard,
Europeans.
yes.
This system is getting more from East Europeans than they're taking out.
We've got 8 million Brits.
Doesn't that make good sense?
No, it doesn't make sense to have 8 million Brits of working age not working. It's a social disaster for them and their families, and that costs a fortune. Middle-class taxpayers have to pay to keep those people in idleness.
What would you do about the fruit pickers in East Anglia, where they can't find the people? The local indigenous population don't want to do that particular job.
They could. Well, I've worked years ago in the fruit fields. I've worked with locals and I worked with foreigners even then. And the fact is that if the money was decent, people would work. When you're picking a bucket of strawberries that size for 50 pence, it's virtually slave labour. And the problem here actually is the supermarkets. If the supermarkets were forced to pay farmers a decent price, farmers could pay local workers a decent wage.
So what would you do about the supermarkets?
I'd want to see the supermarkets broken up. They're an economic
Into what?
They're a disaster in this country. Ideally, on a Waitrose model, into workers' cooperatives. That actually does a good job. Every time a Tesco's opens up on the edge of a town, all the small shops close down.
Workers' cooperatives?
Waitrose.
Supermarkets? Well, John Lewis isn't a workers' cooperative.
It's a very good example.
You can call it that if you want.
Right, let's not go down the workers' cooperative.
Well, no, but it's an interesting one because it was introduced by Julius Streicher. This was the ideas of Julius Streicher in 1936, was this idea of collectivism.
Right,
I tell you what,
the Labour Party was into co-ops as well.
Let me ask you another question. You want to repeal the equalities, get rid of the Race Relations Act, yeah?
We want to get rid of all the politically correct race relations type legislation and industry that is costing this country billions of pounds in wasted taxes.
Fine.
Yeah.
So, as an employer, I can discriminate against who I want.
I think that's your human right, even if it's against me. Yeah.
Right. So it does. And what about women? You say I don't want any women to work?
No, I think that where women are doing an equal job, they should get exactly the same pay.
But
no more.
Well, you should do, but do you think there should be legislation to ensure that?
I think that legislation to ensure that is fair enough. But that's one simple piece of legislation. Because why on earth should a woman not get the same as a man for the work? So, but that's not where we're going to be if we get.
So if I run a small business, I can say no blacks allowed.
You can say no blacks or no whites, because I don't believe it's the job of the state to waste vast amounts of taxpayers' money interfering in the liberties of ordinary citizens. It's wrong.
What about disabled people? No disabled people.
I think any company which did that would suffer such a backlash.
Well, they might suffer a bit of a backlash if they said no blacks, mightn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Any company which discriminates is probably going to suffer, but it's their right to discriminate if they wish.
What about no gays?
I say the same thing. It's up to an individual. You're absolutely entitled to say who can come into your house.
But you seem squeamish about the no disabled people. That one, you seem to be uncomfortable with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why not just have liberalism everywhere?
What about saying? That's what I'm arguing for.
And what about you're not?
You're saying
that women, there must be equal pay for women, and that they've got this. You couldn't discriminate against women. Why?
Why this discrimination, and why do you then not allow the discrimination against black people, etc.? It's inconsistent. There's no logic to it, is there?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is inconsistent at all. I think it's a matter.
Well, how is it not?
That it's just patently obvious that if a man and a woman, if anyone, or a black man or a white man, are doing the same job, they must get the same pay. That's fair enough.
But can you discriminate against employing women?
But I don't see why. Well, if an employer wants to,
then, you think he could?
Which many do, then I wouldn't want to, but I think an employer's got that right as well, yes.
To say no women?
I don't believe it's the job of the state, when the country's going bankrupt, to spend billions of pounds tinkering with social engineering to force people to take people on or not lay people off and so on. Leave it up to the workers, leave it up to the bosses.
OK, there, Mr Griffin, we must leave it. Thank you very much indeed for being with us on the Campaign Show.